The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Week 14. Injuries, DraftKings ownership. If you have a question about Week 14, pump it in the comment section of this video. After you smash the like, you know what? Even if you don't ask a question, smash the like button to the video anyway, because that's really going to help us out. But if you do want a question for Week 14 and you want to guarantee it gets answered, dump it in there by 7 a.m. You know what? Just by the end of Saturday evening. I'll wake up on Sunday and answer any of the ones I haven't previously gotten to. I am live 10 a.m. Eastern Time this Sunday with Brad Evans. We'll be doing our question and answer period around 10:35 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to roll the dice and maybe your question gets selected out of that, we just have too many to get to with the time constraints that we have. But if you want to guarantee you want to get your question answered, of course, just dump it in the comment section of this video. You're listening to the audio podcast, go rate and review, please. Also, if you want to get the projections, you want to get the ownership projections, the optimizer, head on over to ftndaily.com. Code Mayo gets you an extra discount, but with only a few weeks left, plus playoffs, obviously, it's already highly discounted. The basketball package is still in the early bird special right now at ftndaily.com. If you're interested in fantasy basketball for the year, especially on DraftKings, go over there. The code Mayo will get you a discount on the early bird special already. The prices go up on Monday, so if you are interested in doing that, I highly suggest you go do that now. All right? Rankings also in the description. And subscribe to Mayo Media Network. We're on the push to get 20,000 subs by the end of the year. We're at 18,000 right now, so we need 2,000 more of you. And I see you commenting out there, the people that have not subscribed to the channel. So please, it takes like 2 seconds. Help us out, all right? Let's jump in to the injury report for Week 14, starting off with Houston and Chicago, the early slate of games. David Johnson is in COVID tracing protocol. He is out for Sunday, which means I have elevated Duke Johnson up into the rankings. And again, if you want to see the entire rankings where everyone sits at their position in the rankings and on DKPlaybook.com. Brandin Cooks is likely in. Pharaoh Brown is out, which should mean more routes run and more reps overall in terms of snap share for both Jordan Akins and Daniel Fells, who had seen Pharaoh Brown eat into their production just a little bit because Pharaoh Brown, a notoriously good blocker, been on the field because, the Texans can't block. They need to protect Deshaun Watson. So expect Chicago's defense to move up in the rankings just a little bit too. I don't love them because they really generate very little pressure on the quarterback, but it seems like anyone can generate pressure on the Texans at this point. And you always have to hedge against Deshaun Watson beating said pressure, escaping, and then just going downfield. So it's a tricky situation. They're a number 10 in terms of the defense ranking so far this week. Dallas and Cincinnati, Ezekiel Elliott is dealing with an injury, although he is going to play. I wouldn't expect him to be like 90% of the snaps, though. We'll see some Tony Pollard in this game. Not to say to start Tony Pollard, but temper your expectations a little bit with Ezekiel Elliott this week. Not that you probably have a ton of expectation, although this is the best matchup he's seen in quite some time. On the other side of the ball, it had previously looked like Brandon Allen in his chest injury, which forced him out of Week 13, was not going to start at quarterback, but now it looks like he's going to play. So Brandon Allen back under center. Great news, I guess, for the Cowboys defense. And T. Higgins is going to be a game-time decision trending towards in with his injury right now. But monitor that because I do like T. Higgins if he ends up going. That's where I wouldn't say the majority, but the vast plurality of the targets from Brandon Allen have been going. So keep an eye on T. Higgins. I think he's playable if he plays, but not as a great option, as like a top 36 option. So he'll make wide receiver 3 status for the week with upside because he's always a good red zone presence. With Brandon Allen, the prop that you should be looking for is the Drew Sample over. Guy loves throwing to Drew Sample, who sucks, but ends up with like 7 targets a week, like 4 catches for 35 yards. If it's anything over, let's say 2.5 receptions over 3 receptions, I would definitely take the over on that. I don't think many people are digging into the Drew Sample market as it pertains to props. On that Sunday show, Brad and I will have our 5 favorite props of the week. I might not do 5. I might do less, depending on how many props that I end up liking. Brad will have his fade 5, though. He's been doing pretty well recently. Kansas City and Miami, Salvon Ahmed and Matt Breida are both out once again. DeAndre Washington may return for this game, but all Myles Gaskin all the time. Let's go. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, likely in, although he was in last week and didn't play. It does seem like he should return to at least the role that he had seen previously. He's not a great start. I have him in the low 20s in the running back ranking, still slightly nudged ahead of Le'Veon Bell, but you should have better options at this point in time. Maybe you don't, I don't know. But like Mike Davis is a better option this week with Christian McCaffrey out. Arizona and the Giants, Kenyan Drake is likely going to be in. Keep an eye on him, though, because he popped up Friday with a hip injury on the injury report. And we've seen Chase Edmonds destroy the Giants before. That was last year. DeAndre Hopkins likely in. Daniel Jones practiced on full on Friday. He could be a go for this game, which would bump up the Giants receivers a little bit. I have him back in the rankings. I don't think he himself is all that great of a start, but at least he can throw the ball more than, 6.5 yards downfield, which could really help out Evan Ingram, who he loves, and Sterling Shepard in terms of not just receptions and target share, but actually getting some yardage on the back end of that. The only Giant I'd really go out of my way to play, I guess you got to play Ingram at this point just because tight end is so soft, is Wayne Gallman. But Sterling Shepard enters, like I'd have him ahead of T. Higgins, put it that way. He'd be like wide receiver number 31, that range. And Darius Slayton still seems like he's banged up despite not being on the injury report. A lot like Jerry Jeudy in a way where they're clearly playing through something and they're not 100% and it's severely impacting their fantasy value. So just keep him on the bench. Minnesota and Tampa. Here we go. Alexander Mattison is out once again with the appendicitis. He could return next week, which should mean a full complement of snaps for Dalvin Cook once again. Kyle Rudolph and his Iron Man streak very much in jeopardy. He is likely going to be out this week. Reports are that he is really trying to play in this game to keep the streak going, but don't use Kyle Rudolph. Not that you probably were anyway after last week's goose egg in a really nice spot. Irv Smith and his groin injury likely to return in this game. Not an ideal matchup against the Bucs defense, although the Bucs defense maybe not quite as good in real life as they are in our minds, because we still just remember them shutting down Aaron Rodgers and making him look pathetic. They've been rather pedestrian ever since the Chiefs really banged them up, but coming off a bye week, they should return to full health. I don't love the matchup, but Irv Smith is super cheap on DraftKings if you do need someone to jam in there. Not my favorite of the cheap end guys, but he's also not going to be very popular either. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are likely to be in for this game as well. Denver and Carolina. DJ Moore is out with his ankle injury, plus he popped up on the COVID tracing list. Christian McCaffrey, looking like he was going to come back. Very excited to play Christian McCaffrey. He's likely out with a quad injury now. So Mike Davis, quote-unquote, time once again. Not a top 10 option, but like a fringe top 20 option this week. Curtis Samuel is likely going to play too, so he gets a severe bump up in the rankings with DJ Moore out, as does Robbie Anderson in this matchup. We even might see some Ian Thomas. Wouldn't count on it, but he runs routes, so he's going to be out there. He's another one of those cheap tight ends that you could potentially punt on if you wanted to. Tennessee and Jacksonville. Jonnu Smith and A.J. Brown both going to play this week, practiced in full on Friday. Tyler Eifert is likely going to be in, as will James Robinson and Laviska Shenault. If you've been riding James Robinson into the fantasy playoffs, and I assume you've made the fantasy playoffs if you have James Robinson on your squad, he's been very good. Devine Ezigbo is the primary handcuff here. It's the time of the year where you don't need a wide receiver 7 on your team or a wide receiver 6. You can drop those guys that you're never going to play to have a full-time replacement. I don't know how good Ezigbo would be. Would he play 92% of the snaps like James Robinson? I doubt it, but he could play like 70%, and it does seem like they're going to get their running back the ball regardless of what happens, especially with Mike Glennon under center right now. It's the early set of games. In the late set of games, Indy and Las Vegas, the only one to really watch out for is Josh Jacobs. He's trending towards playing in this matchup. It's a tougher run defense, although Indy's defense has been rather lax the past few weeks compared to what they were earlier in the season. I just don't know how much go Jacobs has in him. Is he returning to a spot where he's going to play 75% of the snaps on a bum ankle? Probably not. So I have him, I believe, number 26 in the running back rankings. That's behind such luminaries as I Suck Miles Sanders. Because I don't know how much he's going to play. It could be 2 snaps and he's out of there because he's wildly ineffective. I have him as the highest of the Raiders running backs, but again, that's not really saying much. So proceed with caution as it pertains to Josh Jacobs. Again, we probably won't even know whether he's playing or not unless Schefter really gets some inside info and releases that Sunday morning until after the 1 o'clock games have already started. So you're going to have to pick your poison with that. Jets in Seattle. I was kind of excited. Excited is probably the wrong word about Ty Johnson, but I thought it was a decent spot for him. Now it looks like Frank Gore is coming back. I'd still play Ty Johnson over Frank Gore, although Adam Gase's obsession with Frank Gore continues. It continues to manifest itself. This is an old man we're talking about, coming off a concussion. Like, the guy's got the dizzy, so he probably should have sat down this week, but he's past concussion protocol. He's expected to play, so it's just a situation where just avoid it. Denzel Mims is out. He's dealing with personal matters. On the outside, expect Jeff Smith to fill in for him. And Jamison Crowder popped up with a calf injury. He's now a game-time decision. Braxton Berrios would take his role in the slot should he miss time in this one. Travis Homer likely out for the Seahawks, and that's about it. Green Bay and Detroit, Kenny Golladay and his bum hip, he's out. He's probably just not going to play this season. DeAndre Swift is likely going to be back. Jace Sternberger is out on the Green Bay side of the ball, and there were rumors that Allen Lazard is going to be on a pitch count, a snap count. We'll see about that as it continues to go, as he was the very popular third man in, him or Robert Tonyan, with the stack of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams this week on DraftKings. So proceed with a little bit of caution as it comes to Allen Lazard. I still like him. If he's out there, you probably have to play him if you have, like, depending on the size of your league. 10-team league, you're not playing Allen Lazard. 14-team league, he could be your wide receiver 3 this week just because of the upside that this matchup presents as Detroit gets torched by wide receiver 2 so far this season. In New Orleans, it's basically Drew Brees is going to be out. Carson Wentz has been benched. You get Jalen Hurts versus Taysom Hill. Bad news for Alvin Kamara, although he was able to overcome the lack of receiving game work last week. Can he do it again? It's going to take a big one if he's going to do it. So I don't love Kamara, but he's running back number 13 this week. So it's not like you're benching him either way unless you got supreme options in this scenario. Atlanta and the Chargers, Julio is going to be out. Todd Gurley is likely to be in. Everyone else appears to be healthy. Like, there's not going to be like Troy Maine Pope probably for the Chargers. Joshua Kelly might come back in this game. You're not really concerned about them. I would guess it's going to be Christian Blake, but it could be Zacchaeus on the. I guess Zacchaeus is dealing with the toe injury, so it probably isn't. It is Christian Blake on the outside. I don't want to play Christian Blake, but you could if you wanted to, as wide receiver 2s have done a decent amount of damage against the Chargers, and with Ridley likely on lockdown. Although in the games that Julio's missed, Ridley is averaging double-digit targets per game, and Blake has seen a bit of an increase. Russell Gage, despite the fact that you think that he would get more of a market share, really hasn't in these spots. You'd expect him to really jump off the page and be like, okay, you're now our number 2. Hasn't been the case, so don't really adjust Russell Gage either way. If you were playing him before, you're probably still playing him now. If you weren't, you're probably going to send him on the bench anyway. Washington and San Francisco, Antonio Gibson is out. Expect split shares between J.D. McKissic and Peyton Barber. Obviously, it's going to be between the 5s on the field, J.D. McKissic, once they're inside either their own 5 or the San Francisco 5. Peyton Barber's probably going to be on the field. Peyton Barber is going to make madness occur in anyone who plays J.D. McKissic this week. Hopefully McKissic can get there because he's going to be very involved in the passing game, and he'll likely end up playing the most snaps, but the most valuable snaps of all will still more than likely in short yardage situations go to Peyton Barber. So just be cognizant of that. Deebo Samuel going to play for the San Francisco 49ers. Pittsburgh and Buffalo, got nothing. James Conner's going to be back for this one, too. John Brown's still on IR. That's about it. Baltimore and Cleveland. Des Bryant is likely out, as we've now actually been placed on the COVID list. And Austin Hooper is one to watch out for. He's dealing with a neck injury. He did not practice on Friday. This is a new injury, but this is the Monday night game. So Saturday will tell whether or not, at least give us a better indication, whether Austin Hooper will be active for this game or not. My advice, just don't play him. That easy. Ownership on DraftKings for the week. If you're looking to mine all of the DraftKings ownership and get updates throughout the weekend, I suggest you go over to ftndaily.com. Kyle Murray's ownership projections get updated once again on Friday evening, twice on Saturday, and then after lock on Sunday if you're really digging into where the players are going to be owned this week. At the running back position, a lot of people are concentrating on very much the same people. With Christian McCaffrey now out, Derrick Henry has really taken a leap up in terms of ownership. Expect him, David Montgomery, Myles Gaskin, J.D. McKissic, and Austin Eckler to be the 5 highest owned guys. McKissic really shaking up to be that cheaper version. Although Duke Johnson has opened up now towards the bottom. Ty Johnson had previously been there, but with Frank Gore returning, I wouldn't expect anyone to go to him. I have all 5 of these guys projected over 15% at the moment. At wide receiver, it's a little bit different. Devontae Adams is likely to be the highest owned player on the slate, which probably should translate into a lot of Aaron Rodgers teams just with that stack if people don't find it too expensive. That's where everyone's going at the top. Him and Keenan Allen. In the mid-range, Robbie Anderson and Corey Davis are generating a lot of buzz in that $5,000 and low $6,000 area. And while he's not projected into double digits right now, Brashad Perriman is likely the punt wide receiver with Denzel Mims missing this game and Jamison Crowder banged up, where that's where you're going to save your money this week at $3,900. If you want to fade Brashad Perriman, you can probably do it, although he is a big play threat and he can get there Not necessarily all on one play, but with the generated target share that he should receive here, I understand the play a lot. At tight end, one guy above all in double digits, that's Travis Kelce. No one else projects in the double digits. Logan Thomas would be second just because he's so cheap. But right now you're looking at like 7, 8, 9% in terms of overall ownership. So don't be deterred by Logan Thomas. It does appear like people's infatuation with J.D. McKissic and not wanting to have two footballs on their team is having people lean towards McKissic over Logan Thomas in a vast amount right now. I have McKissic projected at over double the ownership of Logan Thomas. Quarterback, completely flat. Expect your usuals to be at the very top. Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, I do think ends up being the highest owned guy, but those three should end up being 1, 2, 3 as it comes in this week. And then at defense, it's two cheapies. Well, I guess the Seahawks aren't super cheap, but everyone's loving the Cowboys with Brandin Allen under center. Listen, just fade chalk defenses. That's usually the right play. Sometimes they hit. The majority of the time they don't. So if you can just go anywhere else, that's usually a pretty good idea. The Cowboys are $2,400. You could take a shot on the Falcons against Justin Herbert, especially with Herbert very high ownership. That way you can kind of double-edged sword yourself that if the Falcons defense does come through, then it likely means that Justin Herbert has had a very poor game. So I don't love any of these defenses from $2,500 and below. I'd probably stick with the football team at $2,800. That's probably my favorite low-end defense to go to. And if we do go above that, yeah, you could see... the Seahawks are pretty good. I mentioned the Bears earlier. If no one's going to be on them at $3,000 at home, that's not a terrible spot to be in. So the Bears, primarily the footballs, maybe the Buccaneers. You don't need to spend a ton on defense to get away from the chalk, so that's the area where I would go. Thank you all for watching the Week 14 injury and DraftKings ownership update. Remember to smash the like button. You got a question, hit the comment section. If you're listening to the audio version, rate and review. Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
That Mayo experience! Experience!